Well, we have several waves of storms for the central U.S. ahead of a cold front and several upper level disturbances, and then it's heat building in for the central U.S. So we have a series of these weak upper level disturbances, but that's all it takes to generate thunderstorms this time of year. All these little X's, those are little short waves, we call them, in the middle of the atmosphere, basically cool fronts aloft that generate instability. You heat things up from the surface, you add some humidity, and then you cool off the top of the atmosphere, and that allows those storms to bubble up. We also have a surface boundary, cool front moving through the Dakotas into Minnesota today. That'll be the focus for storms, an enhanced risk of severe storms for Minnesota and Nebraska today. Then tomorrow it shifts to Kansas, and then a broader slight risk ahead of that front for much of the central part of the country here as we head into Wednesday. So a few stormy days here, plenty of moisture to work with. Gulf of Mexico is open for business, dew points in the 70s all the way up to Minnesota today. And then those higher dew points will shift east with that cool front, and that area, wherever that border that is, that's where we're going to see the focus for storm development. So two pockets of enhanced risk. Nebraska, mainly we're looking at high winds, but in Minnesota we could be looking at some very large hail and a tornado threat. So this is the hail threat today. Golf ball sized hail, a hatched area of high probability hail. So storms that do develop later today in Minnesota could have some very large hail. And there's also a tornado risk on the Minnesota side of this threat. So again, Nebraska side, mainly high wind gusts today, but the threat in Minnesota is conditional today. We've got some ongoing morning thunderstorms that could dampen the energy levels this afternoon. But that risk is there for some strong storms. We also have significant tornado parameter quite high here across either central or eastern Minnesota. The models are all over the place with this afternoon's weather because it does depend on the morning convection here. So we think a lot of that will fizzle out, and we will have a window in central Minnesota where strong storms could develop ahead of that front and then push east, and then we'll see those storms flare up more into the evening hours across Nebraska, and then those will be some high wind gust producers. So comparing two models here for those updraft tracks where we try to find the strongest areas of storms, you get a scattering of that in Minnesota, in Nebraska, and then those two pockets as well you can see on the high resolution rapid refresh model that kind of match that enhanced risk area. But again, the wind gust threat, mostly Nebraska, this is where we could see those 60, 70, 80 mile an hour wind gusts and some storms. Minnesota really does look to be the large hail and then those isolated tornadoes. And then the threat shifts south with that front tomorrow. An enhanced risk already tomorrow for a good chunk of Kansas. We're going to be looking for a tornado threat, large hail again, and the potential for some pretty strong wind gusts as those storms start to bow out. So hail risk tomorrow, again, a hatched severe risk across Kansas. A little more common in Kansas to have golf ball plus size hail than it is in Minnesota. Also that risk of tornadoes, again, in the central part and eastern parts of Kansas for Tuesday. Significant tornado parameter pretty high for eastern Kansas in particular Tuesday afternoon. So we'll be watching those initial storms to develop tornadoes. It's usually the case with these outbreaks. Same thing in Minnesota today. It's those first storms that develop that are individual super that kind of merge into a line and then produce severe wind gusts. And that looks to happen here across portions of Kansas and into Oklahoma as well. Some pretty nasty wind gusts. So those storms will pop up here in the late afternoon and mainly probably evening hours. So kind of a evening and overnight threat, Kansas into Missouri for those storms tomorrow into early Wednesday morning. And then again, that area will shift a little farther east and southeast on Wednesday. A lot of rainfall over the next few days with these storms too. You can kind of see the three separate waves of severe weather with copious amounts of rainfall, dew points in the 70s. That's tropical moisture easily squeezing out some moisture. But we're also going to be talking about heat by the end of the week into the weekend. That heat dome to the west is going to start to shift east. That means the plains, the south, the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes and the east. Really heating up here as we head into the end of the week, the weekend, and into early next week. So a sample this Saturday, highs into the 90s up into Minnesota, triple digits potentially in Nebraska and Kansas. And of course, they will stay hot in the Southwest, 110, 112 in Phoenix. So there you go. Summer is slowly making its way to the central U.S. Severe storms, heat, all the things you'd expect in mid-June.